The Ruden Report podcast is brought to you by the Westport Library. Welcome to the Ruden Report podcast. I'm Dave Ruden. We're coming off the first full week of the FCX season, and that always means we start to get a little bit of a better read on the teams, whether there are any early surprises, how the favorites looked, and especially in baseball, we're off to kind of an interesting start. Only have 3 teams that are unbeaten, 2 not a surprise, 1 a little bit of a surprise, and 2 of those teams actually meet this afternoon. And then really an interesting week of games coming up. So I want to touch upon that. And then a really good interview I did over the weekend with Fairfield Warde baseball coach Brett Connor, and he's the coach of one of those unbeaten teams. The Mustangs are just off to a really, really good start, and it's really not that big a surprise. And joining me again this week, my New Canaan teen sensation broadcaster, Ian Nicholas, getting ready to broadcast. What game are you doing today?
So Staples Wilton, that's going to be a really interesting game today. As you mentioned, it's going to be interesting to see if Wilton can really push Staples with Carter Kelsey on the mound and prove that their 4-0 record is no fluke. Speaking of, on the diamond, let's stay at the diamond here. Let's go to softball with the girls. And Dave, St. Joe's, the number 1 team, really from the get-go. And in the early going, they have proved to be no fluke and that they are really the top team in this league, the Cadets. And there's some big-time games this week. There's a big game on Wednesday. So why don't you take us through that and take us through why St. Joe's just continues to be so good?
The Cadets are the Cadets. I guess that's the easiest and the best way to put it. I got to see them on Wednesday for the very first time, and they're impressive. They've got a lot of talent in the field. They've got some really good hitters, and they always have a good pitcher. And they have a transfer from Laurelton Hall, Lauren Wazakowski, who's just been dominating so far this year. And if you have a good pitcher in softball, you're going to go far. And St. Joe's always has one of the best in the state. So this year is no different. And one big game this week, one game that I think is going to be pretty interesting is Wednesday. 2 contenders, two of the teams that you could argue are 2 and 3 right now, and that's Fairfield, Ludlow, and Trumbull. Trumbull lost the opener to St. Joseph 12-0 and hasn't played since. And I think a lot of people thought St. Joe's and Trumbull were going to be the 2 best teams. So we need to see the Eagles again, just one game, and kind of get a feel for where they stand and whether the margin of defeat against St. Joseph was an aberration. Ludlow is a team that's been really, really good. Offensively, they're pounding the ball, led by shortstop Allie Clark. And I'm actually working on a story right now as we tape this, took a little break, but Ludlow's had four pitchers, 3 are in quarantine, and 1 has been injured. So they're off to a 4-0 start with their number 5 pitcher, Julia Magliacco. So it's going to be interesting. Julia's done well, but she hasn't pitched yet against a team as talented as Trumbull. So, and we haven't seen the Eagles. So Wednesday, actually, I'm going to go to that game and kind of interested to see what happens.
Most definitely, that could be a game between 2 teams looking to prove that they have what it takes to take down the Cadets, and that's going to be a good game for both teams to really get warmed up in the early going this year and play some top-flight competition. Speaking of top-flight competition, FCAC boys lacrosse has been on a roll lately, and it's going to be a great week for lacrosse fans around Southern Connecticut because New Canaan, they've got one tough schedule. They play Prep today, Wilton on Wednesday on the road, and then they play Darien, New Canaan, Darien boys lacrosse on Saturday at Stadium Field in Darien. That's going to be an amazing game. And Richfield, the number 2 team in the state heading into the season, according to the Game Time CT poll, They have been fantastic. They knocked off New Canaan in a miserable rainy game last Thursday, and then they hosted Fairfield Prep. They beat them on Saturday. Richfield has looked great, and they also have a really tough week as well.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. We had some good games. You're always going to have good games in boys lacrosse because there are so many good teams, but probably the game I'm most looking forward to this week takes place Tuesday night at Tiger Hollow. We haven't heard much about Darien just because they haven't played anybody yet, and that's going to change this week. But they're loaded. Andy Demopoulos is back in goal. He started in goal as a sophomore and helped lead them to a state title. Defensively, you've got Sam Erickson and David Ivanchik. Two names that are very familiar to Darien lacrosse fans. Last names Hope Mathias, Matthew Minikis. They're leading the attack, and you have Jamison Moore at midfield. So a stacked lineup again, and they're going up against a Ridgefield team that pounded Fairfield Prep on Saturday and had an interesting game against New Canaan. Fell behind 7-4 at halftime, and we're having trouble on draw control, and that will be the one area that will interest me against Darien is draw control. And Coach Roy Causey brought his best defender, Kai Prashka, up to draw control, and he sort of stabilized the team and led the comeback win against New Canaan. So, hey, you got 1 versus 2. You have a setting like Tiger Hollow. It's going to be a great game. Both teams, it's a chess match. Both coaches sometimes have differing strategic ways. So, yeah, we're gonna see what happens with that game, and then like you said, New Canaan, they have Walton coming up, and then they play Darien in the biggest rivalry game on Saturday, and they've got a very good team. Excuse me, they have a very good team, but they're coming off a couple of tough losses. So hey, this will be a good week. They've had tough losses, but they're not a bad team. Quite the contrary. There's a lot of talent there. I think they're just trying to gel a little bit with some young players. So it'll be interesting. It's a great lacrosse, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse too is always a lot of fun. And even though we don't have interstate games this year, we have all the best teams playing each other, and just look at the games we mentioned for this week. It's going to be it'll be interesting to see on Saturday night where we stand with lacrosse.
And New Canaan, I know just from being around here, but they are a little banged up right now with the injury bug, and I know that Coach Chip Buzzio hopes by Saturday to have his full team back in the lineup against Darien. So the best rivalry game arguably in the state, New Canaan-Darien. New Canaan should field their full team, and that should be as good a game as advertised. But that Darien-Richfield game tomorrow, 1 versus 2, that will be very interesting. And Kai Prohaska is such an electric player heading to North Carolina next year to continue his lacrosse career. He's a great athlete, and he just makes that team run in Richfield. Speaking of making teams run, New Canaan will be back to running with girls lacrosse on Thursday. They are going to be out of a quarantine that they were placed in early last week when we were taping our previous podcast, Dave. We heard the news from Coach Kristen Woods. It was official. The team is going to be placed in the quarantine. They've been in quarantine for a little over a week now, and in a few days, their season opener is going to be against Darien. And that is just going to be one heck of a challenge for Coach Kristen Woods and her team to have to open up their season up against the top team in the FCAC, which has won 8 straight FCAC titles in the Blue Wave.
I think everybody has agreed clear-cut 1 and 2 teams, Darien and New Canaan, in some order. And it's unfortunate that New Canaan is going to have been in quarantine, hardly practiced, and then they're going to have to go up against their biggest rival. So how that affects the team remains to be seen. But I guess if you always say you throw the records away with Darien, New Canaan games, I guess you throw all the circumstances away. If there's ever a game that New Canaan's going to get pumped up for coming off of quarantine and the impediment and try to ride a little bit of emotion, it's going to be against Darien. And hey, both teams are loaded. You got the Harden sisters, Kayla and McKenna for New Canaan. You got Claire Mahoney, Hollis Murray, Dylan Patton. It reads like an all-FCAC all-state team. And the same is true with Darien. And Darien, if you want a measuring stick, played Wilton last weekend. And Wilton is one of the top. They may be the third best team in the league. And Darien beat them 10-5 if you want some sort of a gauge. And again, they're going without Chloe Humphrey, their top player probably in the state, as she hopes to come back from a stress fracture in the back. But Darien has one of the top goalies in the country in Shea Dolce. And again, their lineup reads like who's who of all-stars with Kate Bellissimo, Nell Niffen, Molly McGuckin, and Cece Stein. So, yeah, it's FCX sports are great, and just look at for the four top sports. We haven't gotten to some of the sports that don't get the same publicity, but baseball, softball, boys and girls lacrosse, it doesn't get much better than the games we've spoken about. So we've talked a little bit about lacrosse. Let's segue back over into baseball. We talked a little bit in the intro about Fairfield Warde, 4-0. A lot of juniors on the team that were unbeaten as freshmen, and I don't think anybody's surprised by the Mustangs right now, and certainly not their coach, Brett Connor. So we'll be right back, and we'll let Brett Connor, my interview with him, tell you all about his Mustangs right after this. We're back, and about this time, the first week, first 4 or 5 games into the season, you kind of get a little bit of a read on what's going on, who are teams to keep an eye on. There's always a team or two that are kind of popping up and catching your attention, and that's certainly the case in baseball right now. Everybody has been talking Staples, and deservedly so, but actually, ironically, it was Staples coach Jack McFarland that told me, keep an eye on Fairfield Warde, they're loaded. And right now, they're off to a 4-0 start. The most dramatic victory of the season coming on Friday. And joining me right now is the Mustangs coach, Brett Connor. Brett, thanks a lot for taking the time here.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it, and appreciate the kind words from Jack.
So far, they're very accurate words. You're unbeaten. The team has looked really impressive, and then Friday, you're one strike away from losing a 4-3 game to Norwalk, and Griffin Polly hits a grand slam, and a 4-3 loss turns into a 7-3 win. And I guess that's the Mustang magic that's happening right now.
Yeah, Dave, I have a group of kids this year that they just get it, and what do I mean by that, by just getting it? It's, they're baseball guys. They prepare. They understand their roles. I've known their strong work ethic throughout the years, being heavily involved in, the local Little League, seeing a lot of them since they're 8 years old playing. Just the work ethic is incredible. And most importantly, the trust they have in each other. A lot of these players, they played the local Little League, Fairfield National or Fairfield American. But, as they move on past Little League, they all go to their separate travel programs. And, we have guys from everywhere, every travel program around the area. So, mixing in that camaraderie and building the trust this quick has really helped, have a really solid start to the season.
Okay, take me through what's going through your mind. Yes, on Friday, yesterday. Actually, we're taping this Saturday afternoon, but you're one strike away from losing. Bases loaded. You got a top hitter up. What's going through your mind? And then when Griffin makes contact and you see the ball going out, what are you thinking?
Well, we always talk about, letting our play dictate, itself, and you play until the very last out is made. And a guy like Griffin Polly, who's a sophomore, we've known what he's capable of doing. Now he's kind of making a name for himself in the FCAC and in the state, along with, college coaches now are starting to, reach out about him and gaining a lot of interest in his ability. So, we have a lot of trust in him. We believe in him. And, he's been swinging a hot bat. That's the second home run of the year. So he was kind of a sneaky 7 hitter in our lineup. It's not really sneaky anymore. So.
Again, it's a long season. We're only 4 games in, but you start looking at these moments, and they're the kind that maybe you look back on later on and say there's magic happening with this team. We're not ready to give you an FCI championship ring yet, but there's got to be a really good vibe going on with the team right now.
Yes, absolutely. Like you said, it's 4 games. I saw your tweet, Dave. Ward has the it factor.
Well, you do right now. You do right now. You do right now.
I rather have the it factor on, when we're holding up a trophy. So that's our goal. But you know what? We're playing good ball now. I'm proud of the kids. They're doing everything that we are asking of them. They understand that it's hard to win an FCAC baseball game. It is hard. There is no day off. There is no pitch off. You have to remain focused throughout. Because if you take a play off, the other team's going to beat you. And, I think sometimes in the first 4 games, the energy level was a little low to start, and they just responded. And they just respond to things. And coaching, they're very coachable. They're the kind of guys that they reach out to us coaches and they say, "Coach, can you meet me for some extra BP before practice? Can you throw me some extra BP after practice? Can you hit me some ground balls? How about this? How about a guy asking for extra base running help?" Before practice. Like, that's what it's about. They just get it. I've only had 2 players in my 15 years of coaching throughout at all different levels. I've had 2 players that have asked for early work base running before practice. I mean, it speaks volume about the caliber of kids that are in the program. They want to get better. They're hungry. They're motivated. They're just baseball dudes. I call them baseball dudes for a reason. And, it's a lot of fun to be around.
Speaking about Griffin, not a bad week for him. Wednesday he comes and throws a complete game, 6-hitter, 9 strikeouts and a 2-0 win against Ridgefield. So I guess not just his bat, we should be expecting to see a lot from his arm as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, he's a two-way player. Like I said, he works hard. He's just a great guy to be around. The kids love him, and he doesn't play like a sophomore by any means. He plays like a senior, and he's just tough. Nothing phases him, and it's a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of kids on our team that are fun to watch.
Yeah, I want to bounce around and mention a few of them right now. And then I was just looking through some of the box scores. You already had another complete game effort to start the week against West Hill, and Zach Broderick throws a complete game, strikes out 10 in a 7-2 win over West Hill. Another pitcher I guess we should be keeping an eye on.
Another pitcher, another 2-way guy. He plays first base for us. He's our 4-hitter. He's all baseball. Great kid who just has so much energy, and he's showcasing positive energy for us, and it's just it's awesome. It's awesome to see, and it really makes our team go. So if we keep that up, we're gonna have a lot of great success. So,
and then John Heitzman, who you mentioned before, 4 games, he's 7 for 13, 3 RBIs. He's one of the big bats. You sort of mentioned when we were talking a little bit about the preseason, and obviously so far so good with him.
Yeah, with our entire lineup, including guys, guys still haven't gotten opportunities yet. Whether if we want to go into the COVID protocol stuff, guys in quarantine. So there's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I just had 2 guys just join us 2 days ago. So
you mean there's more there?
There's more.
There's more. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, we just have to play our game, Dave. If we play our game, we stick together, we stay motivated, trust one another, good things will happen. But, it's a long season. It's only 4 games right now. A lot of things can happen. If you let negativity creep in, well, you're going to get negative results. So they're understanding this, and we're just plugging along and enjoying the ride. It's great to be out there. But like I was saying with the lineup, every guy in our lineup is a tough out. And, I checked the stats and think we have 24 strikeouts on the year, but only 4 strikeout looking. So, the guys are going out and competing, and they're aggressive, and that's what I want to see. I can't stand watching hitters with the, bat on their shoulder and just showing no lack of competitiveness whatsoever. So these kids are competitors. They're hungry. They all enjoy each other. They're fun, so much fun to be around. I'm just looking forward to the rest of the way, see what happens.
And then we've been bouncing around talking about guys, and we haven't even gotten to your leadoff hitter yet, your catcher, Roman Giacomo, who has already committed to Duke, so he's not too bad either.
He's a phenomenal kid. His biggest thing, he can hit the baseball, but his biggest thing is his defensive skills. I mean, he is going to save us so many runs this year, or at least he should. His catching, his framing, his blocking, he's got a cannon of an arm. He's a baseball player. He worked really hard on getting stronger, and he's a kid. Him and Jack Andrews, I watched them in the local facility since they're 8 years old. They're in there every single day since they're 8. Like, this is their life. And I'm glad to see, a guy like Roman, Jack Andrews, that pair, having a lot of success, because I watched them work, and they deserve, everything that they're earning at this point.
Yeah, you talk about we all like to go to games and pick out big pitching matchups. I think I want to come to your game against New Canaan and see Roman and Zach Rampin behind the plate and just watch them, trying to pluck, going down to second base, trying to pick off runners or catch guys stealing. That might end up being a better duel than whatever the pitchers do in that game.
Yeah, they control the running game. You're going to have to pick your spots against New Canaan. I've been, already doing some research on them. You're going to have to pick your spots, take chances. Situational ball, you're going to have to execute against them if you want to beat them. So we'll be working on things at practice this week to prepare ourselves for Trumbull on Monday, New Canaan on Wednesday, and we have Central on Friday. So
this podcast may be posting around
Stanford on Friday. That's my fault.
This podcast is probably posting right around the time you're playing Trumbull, and don't know for sure, but there's a good chance you could be up against the Eagles ace Brian Krause. That's going to be a great matchup, watching your lineup against one of what are a bunch of really good pitchers in the league this year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope we do face Krause. I want to see what these kids are made of, and they've shown what they're made of in the last 4 games. But those are done with now, and they're going up against one of the, I'd say, easily top 3 pitchers in the state, easily. So it's going to be a great test, a test that I want my kids to experience and show what they have, because it's only going to make them better along the way.
And come postseason, you're going to be facing number ones along the run. So you got to get used to that. Postseason baseball, it's not it shouldn't be a one game win in advance, but that's the way it is. So the more aces you face, the better you are for later in the year.
Yeah, and we've been talking about it. We're anticipating, the words out there that we can swing the bats, and we're not going to shy away from that. We're going to, get in the batter's box and compete and be aggressive. I'm anticipating that we see everyone's ace. It's a competition. You got to go out there and battle. So, in between the white lines, it's, whoever does things the right way and limits mistakes will win the ball game.
I guess there was a little bit of foreshadowing about what this team was going to do 2 years ago when your freshman group made it through the year unbeaten. So they're all juniors now, and they're all contributing, and it looks like the year off hasn't taken away from their skills at all.
All right, yeah. We have 8 seniors this year. We have 6 juniors and 6 sophomores on our varsity team. And the junior team went undefeated. Yeah, when they were freshmen. They're a great group of kids. These are guys that just live in the facilities. They, like I said, they live and breathe this. So it's fun to watch, and I'm happy for them because they're learning some valuable lessons and skills that they're going to need to take with them once baseball ends. When they go for jobs, you got to compete. You still got to work hard if you want to make an honest living. Nothing's going to be handed to you. So all these lessons are going to, take them to lead a successful life. So looking forward to seeing them.
You guys certainly haven't shown any warts yet. Is there any part of your game that is, I don't think a concern is the right word, but any part of your game you'd like to see improved upon a little bit going forward?
Yeah.
You're a coach, of course you're going to say yeah.
Ask Ratch. He'll tell you base running, and I'm going to agree with him. So we have a lot of work to do with our base running. We're aggressive, but we have to be smart. We have to get better reads. We're looking for tendencies, and these are things that yes, the kids go into the facilities and they're hitting nonstop, rep after rep after rep. They're, getting their pitching mechanics in, they're throwing with their coaches or whatever. What they don't work on, though, is base running. So we have to spend a lot of time. We have to teach about tendencies, pitchers, what they do. They tip things, maybe a movement, how we can get, better lead, a better jump. So, these are things that we're working on in practice. And it's been difficult at this time. We've only had probably 3 or 4 practices because tryouts, we just finished tryouts for the entire program the other day because, in Fairfield, we have a 3-day tryout minimum. And then with all the quarantines and the COVID stuff that happened, we were doing, cuts and naming teams. And I brought in a couple seniors, told them they made the team. And then 5 minutes later, they walked back into the gym real quick to let me know that they're out for the next 14 days because they're close contact. So, these are types of things that we're experiencing, and guys come and go. You don't know what to expect, and you just gotta, if your name is called, you got to be ready to answer the bell and take advantage of your opportunities.
It sounds like your big problem is going to be keeping everybody happy. If you got some guys coming back who are penciled in as starters and they got to go, seeing what your guys who have been playing are doing right now. I guess that's a good problem to have if that's what you have.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a couple pitchers that haven't even towed the rubber yet for us that we're really, anxious to see pitch for us. Guys like Jack Pasick has done a great job. He's a sophomore. Here he has 2 wins for us. This year we have 6 lefty pitchers. So, so I don't think can't tell you the last time I had a lefty pitcher, frontline guys. I have 2 frontline lefty pitchers right now. So it's a good thing to have. What
does it say about baseball in Fairfield right now? I mean, Fairfield Ludlow is off to a good start. They're going to be very good this year. 2 years ago they got to the FCAC final, and the one thing is, it's not a case where if one of you's up, the other one's way down. At worst, maybe if one of you's contending, the other one's around the 500 mark. At worst, right. More often than not, you're both in the mix. The way things have gone. What is it about baseball in Fairfield that you're able to sustain two programs, and then obviously there are a couple of other private schools in town as well?
Well, it's competitive. People love the sport of baseball in Fairfield, and there's facilities everywhere. I think the biggest thing as a high school coach, speaking from our side, I think it's important that, if you want to have a successful high school program, you have to be heavily involved with your youth feeder systems. So, us coaches, we're always, present at local Little League games. We put on some different camps and clinics for the kids. Our players go down and help out with practices. It's just so important to be available, and it takes the pressure off of these kids too, for when they get to the high school. They've known you since they're 8 years old. So you don't even need to build that relationship. They already know who you are. They already know how you do things, what you're all about. So at that point, it's just, let's play some baseball, okay? Because we already trust each other. We know what we're all about here. And now it's time to win some ball games in between the white lines.
Well, Brett, it's you're certainly not a surprise team for so far, but you've certainly been a fun team to watch, and you've proved so far that the preseason hype is right, and you're going to be in the mix with a lot of good teams, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You got a lot of good talent on the team. You've always done a great job since you've been there, so hey, it's going to be fun to watch. Thanks a lot for taking the time here, and wish you the best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Dave. And, we really appreciate all the coverage you do for the FCAC. I think these kids deserve it. They work hard, and getting their names out there so people can learn about them and see the success they're having is very important. So thank you for that.
Thanks. I really appreciate that, Brett. And we'll be right back. Again, I want to thank Brett Connor for taking the time. It's he's got quite a team there. He's got quite a team, and hey, baseball's not a one-game sport. Once we get to the postseason, it really should be a best-of series. But they've got all the pieces there to go all the way. So long way to go, but we'll see what happens as we get ready to close out this podcast. Ian, I'll give you 30 seconds. Talk New Canaan. Talk about anything that interests you right now.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Well, yeah, I'll use the time to talk a little bit about what we're doing over at NCTV. We've got a couple of big streams coming up. New Canaan Lacrosse, as we've mentioned throughout the interview, they have a lot going on. New Canaan boys, they play Fairfield Prep today and had a conference opponent, which was ranked 4th in the Game Time CT poll heading into the year. 3 versus 4 matchup. I really can't wait to see that. Prep's got a lot of great players and a great coach, and Coach Neenan. And then on Thursday, New Canaan Lacrosse opens up their season, the girls, with Darien, and that is going to be a highly watched game, and we're going to make sure it looks really good on the live stream on YouTube. So check out NCTV 78 for that. Can't wait to cover more baseball and softball in New Canaan. The baseball team is really looking good under Coach Anthony Boss right now. Zach Rampin and Alex Benevento. Those are 2 names to look out after on all FCAC lists, and can't wait for more spring sports. It really feels like a true season, Dave. I think we've been waiting for this full season for a while, and there's been a lot of great games so far to show for it, and it just feels really good to be back in the swing of things.
I agree with you 100%. I've had more fun, I think, just after a week than this spring than any spring I can remember, just after being cooped up. So hey, we're coming off a great week, and we're going into another great week, maybe even a better week. So we will not be lacking for material come Monday. So I want to close everything out here. First of all, I want to thank my guest, Warde baseball coach Brett Connor. I want to thank my co-host Ian Nicholas. I want to thank Travis Bell, again, thank the Westport Library. And the views expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the views of Verso Studios or the Westport Library. Also, just a reminder that you can subscribe to the Ruden Report podcast on iTunes. A good review is always appreciated. And a reminder too that the Ruden Report newsletter is back out. We're publishing Monday and Friday mornings. Subscribe to the newsletter. And hey, let's have a great spring. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week.